We buy our groceries and daily snacks with a massive amount of blind trust. We see pristine packaging, bright colors, and familiar logos, and we assume the food inside is safe to eat. That confidence is built on the belief that a government safety net is rigorously checking these products. In India, that responsibility falls to the FSSAI. But when you look closely, that protective shield cracks almost immediately. The clean, appetizing image on the package rarely matches the ground truth. The reality involves factory workers kneading dough with their bare feet, handling raw ingredients without gloves or masks, and packaging your food directly on filthy, unwashed floors. And this photograph shows us that the contamination actually starts long before the factory. At the agricultural baseline, farmers are heavily spraying crops with pesticides at every stage of growth, with the soil and even the seeds themselves saturated in chemicals before harvesting even begins. The central authority designed to regulate this massive system is effectively in hibernation. Without active oversight, a completely compromised supply chain is now seamlessly delivering toxic products straight to the public. Looking at this street food setup, you see a staple of daily life. Millions of people rely on carts exactly like this one for their daily meals. But these vendors operate almost entirely outside the bounds of basic hygiene protocols. The negligence at this level is staggering. Vendors are regularly caught washing their raw vegetables in open drain water, or taking discarded, unwashed soda bottles from local stadiums to refill and resell to the next customer. Intentional poisoning is a documented reality. In several cases, authorities have caught vendors applying lethal chemicals, like rat kill, directly onto fresh fruits to protect their open-air inventory from pests. The drive behind these dangerous practices is purely economic. Operating in a highly competitive, low-margin environment, these vendors use toxic shortcuts to cut costs and artificially extend the shelf life of rotting food. This street-level hazard thrives because nobody comes to check. The complete absence of daily health inspections and enforcement has bred a culture of absolute apathy toward the health of the consumer. Step slightly up the supply chain from the street cart, and you arrive at the local, unbranded manufacturing facilities. This is where a massive percentage of the country's daily dietary staples are actually made. Take a look at this. These workers are mixing the jaggery directly in the open air, handling it over dirt and grime, with zero sanitation standards in place. To compensate for these conditions, factories lean on synthetic chemicals. Rather than discarding rotten, rejected tomatoes, operations boil them down and blast them with artificial colors and flavorings to mask the decay and produce passable ketchup. Even snacks aggressively marketed as healthy undergo this exact same treatment. Items like dates and macana are routinely processed by barefoot workers and left out to dry on open, dirty floors before making it into bags. These local manufacturers operate in a regulatory black hole. Mass output and profit margins take absolute priority over human safety, and the authorities simply look the other way. Notice the massive scale of these open spice sacks. When you move up to the bulk commodity level, the adulteration stops being about cutting corners and turns into industrial-scale chemical manipulation. Suppliers are taking a single kilogram of real ghee and chemically multiplying it with palm oil and animal fat to create 15 kilograms of fake product. They are even coating cheap fennel seeds with cement and chemicals to pass them off as premium cumin. These substitutions are slow-acting poisons. Ingesting industrial dyes, engine oil, and cement introduces hazardous materials that accumulate in your organs long after the meal is over. The medical reality of this is devastating, especially for vulnerable bodies. Doctors are seeing young children requiring major surgeries for severe liver damage, kidney failure, and aggressive cancers, all directly linked to the daily consumption of these heavily processed, toxic snacks. The lack of oversight has taken a food industry meant to nourish the population and allowed it to actively and irreversibly damage an entire generation. The frustrating part is that the solution doesn't require inventing new laws. India already has incredibly strict food safety regulations on paper. The crisis exists solely because those rules are ignored. To fix this, two mandatory pillars of a functional system have to be activated. First, every vendor and factory must hold a publicly verifiable license. Second, the bribery culture bypassing safety checks must be dismantled. The final two pillars require force. Authorities must execute zero-tolerance, randomized daily raids. If you poison food, you should lose your license immediately and face non-bailable jail time. We know this blueprint works because it's highly effective when actually deployed. Recent coordinated raids in Gujarat and Delhi successfully seized thousands of kilos of toxic, counterfeit ghee and shut down massive factories producing fake antacids. But those raids have to become the daily standard, not the rare exception. Until the regulatory system permanently enforces its own rules, we have to remain hyper-vigilant about what we consume and demand absolute accountability from the brands we trust. Because right now, safe food is a literal